Good morning, sir.
It's a pleasure to see you today. Good morning. Thank you for coming to tell us about your needs and the needs of the men and women in the U.S. Coast Guard. You mentioned the Hamilton briefly. Wants me to say that how's your wife Linda doing, and is she looking forward to the commissioning in the near future?
She is. I didn't mention that my wife is the sponsor for the Coast Guard cutter Hamilton. She smashed the champagne bottle a couple months ago on the ship, and we'll do the commissioning in Charleston probably in October. But I'll just be a retired Coast Guardsman at the time, her husband attending with her.
Well, it's South Mississippi and Huntington Ingalls. We appreciate your trips and visits to the shipyard down there, and it's going to be a fantastic ship, and she should be very proud. It's a state-of-the-art craft. One of the things you and I have discussed in the past concerned the shipbuilding needs of the Coast Guard. We've spoken at length about the NSC and the future of that program, but also about the balancing act that you are required to do with other ships as well, such as the OPC, the Icebreaker. Do you feel like the current budget, you touched on this, is on a better track for meeting your needs and the needs of the Coast Guard since we've last spoke?
Well, sir, I think I've said this before as well. Any service chief, no service chief will ever come up here and say, I've got all the money I want. And I don't have all the money I'd like. There are many things that I would like to do for my service, but as a taxpayer and as a steward of the taxpayers' money, at a certain point in time in the negotiation process, and I do believe that each year I've gotten a fair hearing from my secretaries and OMB and the President. At a certain point, I'm told what my top line is, and then I have to juggle and balance and make some compromises, yes, from time to time, to make sure that we're taking care of current day operations, but also planning for the future so that those future Coast Guardsmen will have the right tools to work with 10, 20, 30, and 40 years from now. So it has been a balancing act, but we did not think that we were going to get to 8 national security cutters, and we're on the verge of getting that right now. And we are very close to doing a down select for 3 candidates to design the offshore patrol cutter, and I'm very optimistic about that program. And then we'll have to figure out, or my relief will have to figure out, how we fit those things in the budget in subsequent years.
Do you feel like you have the flexibility to basically meet the needs of your shipbuilding plan? For the right mix of ships?
I think so at this point. The administration's been giving me enough to keep our programs going. The Congress has, at certain points, plussed that up a little bit to help us. For instance, the long lead money that was put in the 14 budget for NSC number 8. So it's the process has been working, and we've had enough flexibility to keep our programs going on the timeline that we predicted.
Is there anything that the House can do to ensure that the men and women in the U.S. Coast Guard have the tools and the equipment that they need so they can do their jobs, do it safely, and come back home to their families?
Well, I would say that the men and women of the Congress should scrutinize every appropriations bill that comes up here, and you have to make balanced decisions on where the priorities are. Listen to people like me who are trying to advocate to make sure that people have the right tools, and then make decisions with good counsel.
Well, Admiral, I appreciate that, and I would just like to add a few comments. I mean, it seems like we're continuously fighting over shrinking discretionary funds. You know, the Coast Guard budget, DOD, NASA, pretty much every discretionary agency that falls under that, we continue to fight over it, and we understand that, you know, we need this equipment, we need these tools, we need to be able to protect the homeland, but we also need to be able to protect America's interests at home and abroad. And I think, you know, it's unfair to all Americans that we need to get our financial affairs in order, and we have to do that by addressing the #1 driver of our deficits and our debt, and that's out of control mandatory spending, so that we can continue to fund the U.S. Coast Guard, because not only do the men and women in the Coast Guard deserve it, but Americans expect it. And so, sir, I know you're looking forward to your retirement. Enjoy it, and thank you for, you know, not only what your wife's doing, sponsoring the NSC Hamilton, but good luck in your next endeavors. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And I wouldn't want to leave here with you thinking that I don't appreciate and comprehend the challenges that we find in the budget. And as I said earlier, when I'm given a top line, that's when I make the tough decisions on what we're going to continue, what we can do, and how we balance current operations versus the future. But along the way, it's not my job to decide what that top line is. My job is to identify the resources we're going to need. What are our requirements? In my best judgment, based upon 40 years, 14 years at sea, and doing Coast Guard operations across the full spectrum of what we do, what do we need to do those tools? And I don't think there's anybody better prepared at this juncture than I am after 4 decades to say, these are the requirements that we have. You may not be able to fund them all, but it's my job to be honest and forthright and candid in terms of what we need, and I've tried to do that every time I've come up here.
And we appreciate that candor. Thank you. I yield back.
Sir.
Thank the gentleman. The chair now recognizes